Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privilege of the floor will please retire to the gallery. The senators and all in attendance will stand and be led in prayer by the Reverend Mary Richardson Mann, Westover Baptist Church, Richmond, Virginia.
Let us pray. Our great sovereign, grant the blessing of your holy presence on all who are assembled here today. Thank you for the women and men called to serve and lead in the great Commonwealth of Virginia. As this meeting unfolds, may all who have gathered be united in purpose to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly together as they serve. Remind them that as they look around the room today, listening, speaking, and learning from one another, that they are a community, they are neighbors. While there is great diversity among us, our human commonalities far outshadow our differences. Guide all minds and hearts to be focused on unity. Almighty God, grant patience and understanding during discussion, grant wisdom and discernment in decision-making, and most importantly, grant courage and conviction to act toward the greater common good of all people in Virginia. Holy One, we ask for these mercies. Amen.
Amen. The clerk will call the roll. All those present will please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal for Tuesday, February 6, 2018.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of the waiving of the reading of the journal will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll. Ayes 38, noes 2. The reading of the journal is waived. Clerk will report any communications from the House of Delegates. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would respectfully move that we waive the reading of any communications received from the House of Delegates.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the communication be waived? All in favor of waiving the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 2.
Ayes 38, noes 2. The reading of the communication from the House of Delegates is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the governor.
We do not have any, sir.
We've now reached a time in the morning hour where we are able to greet our wonderful guests here in the gallery, and we are grateful that you all took the time to join us here today. We have a full house. I do want to give a very gentle, friendly daily reminder that the way this works is while the senator recognizes the individual or group, I will then extend the warm welcome of the Senate, and then we will all clap together at one time. All right? Excellent. We're on board. I'd like to call on the senior senator from Richmond City, Senator Sturdivant.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, I want to introduce the pastor who gave our beautiful invocation this morning. Reverend Mary Richardson Mann is a constituent of mine. She's also pastor of Westover Baptist Church. She's a area native, and she attended the University of Richmond and Baptist Theological Seminary, and has since served in various church staff positions, including in the areas of music, children, youth, and college ministry, as well as administration and associate pastor positions. Joining her in the gallery today are her children, Bryson, Rebecca, and Daniel, along with her parents, Stephen and Rebecca Richardson, and her friends, Jenna Beeshan and James Ketchum. And Mr. President, I ask that we offer the Reverend and her guests the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Reverend Mann, would you and your family please rise in the gallery if you're able? Thank you all so much for joining us here today. Thank you for that really lovely and beautiful prayer. You got us off to the right foot today. We echo the words of the senior senator from Richmond City. I'm sure is joined by the junior senator from Richmond City, in appreciation of your work and your moral leadership here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We're grateful to your entire family for being here, both your parents, your children, and your friends. And you shared something with me that I thought was really special. I asked you if you'd ever been here and done the prayer before, and you said, no, you had not. And you had not been here since you were a child, and your father gave the prayer. So I thought that's a very special moment and a touching thing to have happen. So thank you for your great legacy and your family's service here to the Commonwealth of Virginia. I would ask everyone please to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to the Mann family. Senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, please extend a welcome and commend the men and women of NASA Langley Research Center in Hampton, Virginia. For over a century, they have had excellence in aerospace achievements, scientific discoveries, and technological breakthroughs. NASA Langley's accomplishments include managing the nation's first manned space program, improving the performance and safety of aerospace vehicles in all flight regimes, implementing vital Earth and space science missions, successfully exploring the surface of Mars, and opening the frontiers of commercial space, all part of the Commonwealth's rich legacy in aeronautics and exploration. We look forward to a future filled with amazing discoveries, technological breakthroughs, and an inspired workforce that will keep Virginia preeminent in aerospace for years to come. This is also the 13th annual Aerospace Days, and I encourage you to meet with our visitors from NASA Langley, NASA Wallops, and the aerospace industry, and attend the legislative reception tonight at the Library of Virginia, where you will have an opportunity to meet an astronaut. I'd like to recognize members of the NASA Langley workforce in attendance today, including astronaut Shel Lindgren, who is also a Virginia resident, and Deputy Director Clayton Tanner. On behalf of Senator Mason, Senator Norman, and Senator Lewis and myself, please extend to them the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would our friends from the NASA Langley Research Center of Hampton in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for joining us here today. Thank you for your excellence in aerospace and engineering. We echo the words of Senator Locke from Hampton about how important your work has been and continues to be, not just to the Commonwealth of Virginia, but really to the country and to the world in many respects. And I know that Senators Norman and Lewis join Senator Locke in the praise of you. And I'll share with you briefly, yesterday at dinner, Senator Locke was actually praising you. I didn't even know you were going to be here today, but she was singing your praises last night at dinner. So it's really an honor to get to see you. And I look forward to meeting an astronaut, too. That'd be a pretty cool thing to do. So I hope everyone will join you all and join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our friends from the NASA Langley Research Center of Hampton. Senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for purposes of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
I am very honored, Mr. President, that we have some guests in the gallery this morning that have come all the way from Florida to watch us in the Senate gallery. And in fact, I had no idea that they were here this morning in finance to watch us grind it out all morning in finance. And if had I known they were there, I would have tried to be better behaved. But they are the family of my legislative director, Roland Reisinger, and they are his family, Bill and Patty Sperling. And they're here visiting because they're interested in what we do here in the legislature and in the Capitol, and I understand they're going to spend the day here seeing how the process works, and they're going to visit some of the historic sites around Richmond. But I will just say that they have done me a great service by lending Rollin to me. He has the terrible task of keeping me prepared and ready every day. And he is an extraordinary person and has done a wonderful, wonderful job in my office. So I would just like to thank both Rollin, who is also here in the gallery, and recognize Bill and Patty and ask that you please extend to them the very warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the senator. Would Bill and Patty Sperling and Rollin please rise in the gallery if you're able? Thank you all so much for joining us here today. We echo the words of Senator from Fauquier about how grateful we are that you've lent Rollin to us to serve the Commonwealth of Virginia and to serve the senator in her great work and representation here in the Commonwealth. And we are also grateful that you traveled all the way from Florida. Hope the weather's a little nicer here than it was when you left, but we are thankful that you're here. Hope you get to see the sights in Richmond. You are welcome anytime in the Capitol and in the Senate. And I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our distinguished guests. The junior senator from Richmond, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for 2 introductions.
Thank the senator. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, in joining us in the gallery, we have students from VCU School of Social Work, which celebrated its 100th anniversary this past year and continues to be the largest institution preparing social work practitioners in the Commonwealth. The students are here today advocating for issues that affect communities across Virginia, including access to health and mental health services, the opioid crisis, affordable housing, and homeless services, non-discrimination policies, and more. You probably are very familiar with the work of social workers in your districts. You might not know they make excellent legislative aides. I ask that you join them, welcome them to the Senate today.
Thank the senator. Would our friends from the VCU School of Social Work in the gallery please rise if you're able? Wonderful. That's almost worth clapping for. There's so many here. Senator Norman will get on me if I do. But thank you all so much for joining us here today. We are grateful for the work that you do every single day here in the Commonwealth of Virginia to provide opportunities for people to live enhanced and wonderful lives and to step in the gap when they need someone to be their champion. And it really is such critically important work. And I know you bring your heart and your soul to this work. It's not just something you clock in for. And so we're grateful for your dedication and your commitment. As the senator said, you make not only great legislative aides, but you really can do so many wonderful things because you're so versatile as people and as professionals. My campaign manager actually had her master's in social work, and she is a wonderful person, and it was a handful dealing with me. So she was very, very adept at doing that. But thank you all. You are welcome here anytime. My wife is a VCU Ram. She went to the VCU School of Dentistry, so I have to shout her out as well. And we are grateful that you're here. And I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our friends from the VCU School of Social Work. The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. We also have joining us in the gallery members of the American Association of University Women, or AAUW, who are visiting as part of their annual lobby day. AAUW is the nation's leading voice promoting equity and education for women and girls. Since 1881, AAU members have examined and taken positions on fundamental issues of the day, including education, social, economic, and political issues, and they continue to advance equity for women and girls through advocacy, education, philanthropy, and research. AAU members have been meeting with lawmakers today in support of a variety of issues, including SJ 4, ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and ensuring constitutional equality for women. And I ask that you give them a warm Senate welcome.
Thank the senator. Would our friends from the American Association of University Women in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for joining us here today. Again, we echo the words of the senator from Richmond City about the importance of your work and advocacy. And I had the honor and the pleasure of meeting with a number of you in the Lieutenant Governor's office earlier this morning. It was just struck by your passion for issues that really matter to all of us about equity for women and girls and also opportunity for all, education, health care, And really the fight that you have brought for progress is one that we are all very grateful for. So we look forward to having you back here in the Senate and in the Capitol. You're welcome anytime. And I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our friends from the American Association of University Women. The Senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
Thank you, Senator. You have the floor.
Joining us today in the gallery is Early Impact Virginia. Mr. President, this is a group that coordinates and educates the home visitors in Virginia. Home visiting is such an essential, one of the best proven with evidence interventions you can provide for a family and a child to succeed, and one of the earliest interventions other than prenatal care for the workforce pipeline is our home visitors. And so we're so grateful today that Early Impact Virginia has joined us, and I hope you will give them a warm welcome.
I thank the Senator. Would our friends from Early Impact Virginia in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for joining us here today, and also thank you for the work that you do every single day to allow our families and our children in particular to have a shot at a better life and to achieve their God-given potential. And we want to echo the words of the Senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan, her really eloquent words about the importance of your work and how it matters today, tomorrow, and into the future. And so we appreciate you being here. We are grateful for your work and your advocacy, and you're, of course, welcome back here anytime. And I would ask everyone, please, to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our friends from Early Impact Virginia. Senator from Petersburg, Senator Dance.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
Thank you, Senator. You have the floor.
Mr. President, in the gallery are members of the Virginia League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters was founded in 1920 by suffrage after women won the fight for the right to vote. Mr. President, the League is a nonpartisan organization who encourages informative and active participation in government, work to educate the community on public policy issues and influence public policy through education and advocacy. They are visiting the General Assembly for their lobby day and will be advocating for fair elections laws, transparency in government, improved policies for education, and ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. Mr. President, there are no strangers to us that have served in privileges and elections over the years, because I'm sure they were here before we arrived, to be sitting in on those meetings to listen and sometimes respond when they think it's necessary to do so. So let's please give them a warm welcome of the Senate, Mr. President.
I thank the Senator. Would our friends from the League of Women Voters in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for being here today, and also for the work that you do year-round to improve the quality of our democracy and our discussions around policy. And we echo the words of Senator Dance. We are so grateful to each one of you. Your work is carried on now for almost 100 years, and that is a proud legacy that you all should cherish, and that we certainly are grateful for. And you, of course, are welcome back anytime. You are no strangers here in the Capitol. And thank you for your nonpartisan work to make us a better Commonwealth and a better country. So I would ask everyone, please, to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our friends from the League of Women Voters. Senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the introduction.
Thank you, Senator. You have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. President, today in the gallery are members of the Zeta Phi Beta Sorority, Inc., an international historical Black Greek letter sorority founded in January 16, 1920. Zeta Day at the Capitol began when the late Senator Yvonne B. Miller invited her sorority sisters to witness the legislative process and to meet with legislators. With us in the gallery today are some of the members from the Virginia Beach chapter, along with their president, Vivian Brown Henderson, Amelia Hunt, Eastern Regional Executive Board members, and members from various chapters from all over the Commonwealth. Mr. President, please welcome them today. Thank you.
I thank the Senator. Would our friends from Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated in the gallery please rise if you're able? Thank you all so much for joining us here today. I knew as soon as I looked up that the Zetas are here. You guys are representing very well, and we're so grateful to you. I know we have members from the Virginia Beach chapter and certainly from around the Commonwealth of Virginia. The late Senator Yvonne Miller is a true giant and a legend, and she leaves a really broad and wonderful legacy and that we carry on to this day. And we thank you for the work that you have done as a wonderful international organization since 1920. Again, you have almost 100 years of a very proud legacy, and we're a better Commonwealth because of it. So thank you all so much. You are welcome here anytime, and I look forward to seeing you around the Capitol in the weeks and months and years to come. Please, everyone, join me in extending the very warm welcome of the Senate to our friends from Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Do any other senators wish to be recognized for purposes of an introduction? Is there any other business to come for the morning hour? Seeing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Wednesday, February the 7th, 2018. Unfinished business, Senate. Senate Joint Resolution 43 has been agreed to by the House with amendments.
The Senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you,
Mr. President. I apologize for interrupting.
Senator from James City County.
My dear friend from the horse country. My oversight, I respectfully ask that the Senate now stand in recess until 1 p.m.
Without objection, the Senate will stand in recess until 1 p.m. Excuse me. Senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Upon recess, Mr. President, if the Senate Democratic Caucus could meet in the back room for a moment of meditation and reflection.
Without objection. Senate stands in recess until 1 o'clock. The Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Returning briefly to the morning hour, I'd like to call on the junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joining us in the gallery, we have from the University of Richmond Law School, Professor Kimberly Robinson and her class on legislation and regulation. And I ask that you give them a Senate welcome.
I thank the senator. Would Professor Kimberly Robinson and her students from the University of Richmond School of Law class on legislation and regulation please rise in the gallery if you are able? That's impressive. Can't see it. We have a wonderful number of students here. Professor, thank you so much for bringing your students here today. Thank you all for joining us. We hope that you enjoy this experience and seeing the legislative process in action here in the Senate. We're grateful to you. The University of Richmond is a phenomenal institution of higher learning. It has a great law school, and we're very proud of the work that you're doing. So I would ask everyone here to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to Professor Kimberly Robinson and her University of Richmond School of Law class on legislation and regulation. Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
I hope they're still here, but we have a group from James Madison University joining us today, a political science class watching our system in action. So, Mr. President, I would ask you to extend a warm welcome of the Senate to these fine students from James Madison University.
I thank the senator. With the students from James Madison University in the gallery, please rise if you are able. Also quite impressive. Thank you all so much for joining us here today. We echo the words of the senator from Rockingham, represents your area in Harrisonburg, and it's a really wonderful institution, a great part of the Commonwealth of Virginia. We hope that you are enjoying yourself and learning a lot about our legislative process and how our political process works here in Virginia. You are welcome here anytime. We'll give a hearty go Dukes to every single one of you, and I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our students from James Madison University. Do any other senators wish to be recognized for purposes of introduction? Is there any other business to come in the morning hour? Seeing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Wednesday, February 7th, 2018, unfinished business Senate. Senate Joint Resolution 43 has been agreed to by the House with amendments.
Senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of the House amendments, and speaking to those amendments.
Senator has the floor.
I'll just take a moment to explain these amendments. I am carrying these resolutions, which are Governor McAuliffe's appointments. They were reported out by the Senate and sent to the House. The House made one amendment to Resolution 43, and this was to make a correction that we did not catch on our side, and that was during the drafting of the resolution, they reordered the way the boards were listed. And when they did that, they misallocated the name on one board from one board to the other, and they put a person that was on the Tourism Authority board that wasn't supposed to be there. And so what this does is it switches it back and it puts that person back on the Virginia Recreational Facilities Authority. So it just makes that correction. So with that, I would ask the adoption of the amendment.
I thank the senator. The question is, shall the amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The amendments are agreed to.
Senate Joint Resolution 71 has been agreed to by the House with amendment.
Senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also move that we accept this amendment and conform the resolution. These have to be reported out by Friday, just so the body understands. And the issue with this resolution is there was some concern that with respect to the James Monroe Museum Board, and this has on lines 322 through 340, that the membership on that board would violate the terms of the Commonwealth of Virginia's contract with the museum donor, which is the James Monroe Memorial Foundation. And that contract requires that half of the board of the foundation consist of foundation nominees and the other half of the board consist of the University of Mary Washington nominees. And so currently that's not the case. And so with that, Governor McAuliffe has only appointed half the board, the university's nominees, and we are making that correction so that we do not violate that agreement. And I am moving that we please conform our version of the resolution to the House version so that we can report it out. Thank you.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The amendment is agreed to.
Regular calendar, House Bill on third reading, House Bill 389, a bill relating to child abuse and neglect, notice of founded reports to Superintendent of Public Instruction. Reporter from the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services.
Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would yield the floor to the gentlelady from Arlington.
I thank the senator. Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass, and speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. What this bill does is if there is a founded child abuse allegation, it would require three things: that the superintendent, the state superintendent of public education, would be notified without delay. Current law requires that the school board be notified. This bill would also require that the superintendent be notified without delay if, on appeal, that finding is reversed. There's also language in the bill that states nothing in this bill would prohibit the alleged perpetrator, if you will, to pursue ongoing and another form of ongoing investigation. This would be for the license holder. We're talking about teachers, and when we talk about child abuse, we're really talking about allegations of sexual misconduct. So I want to make 2 points. Although this bill does change current law, where the state superintendent would not be told of the finding of the allegation until after the appeals process, this puts the superintendent in the loop earlier. But the superintendent cannot act on anything. The superintendent, under current policy, which is not changed, is merely informed. And I would remind the body that school boards are informed as soon as there is a finding of this allegation of child abuse. So the superintendent came to the Commission on Youth. We went through a rather rigorous review of all of our processes related to the child abuse area when it comes to a teacher and an allegation of sexual assault on a child. We reviewed all of these policies and practices, and the superintendent asked that he just be informed at an earlier point. So that's the beginning and end of this bill. It passed the House 99-0, and I respectfully ask that the body pass this. Thank you.
I thank the senator. Senator Reeves or Senator Favola?
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. President.
Is there a floor amendment?
There is not a floor amendment to this.
Okay. Thank you. Would anyone else like to be heard on House Bill 389? Seeing none, the question is, shall House Bill 389 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 3.
Ayes 37, noes 3. House Bill 389 passes.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 725, a bill relating to posting notice of the human trafficking hotline. We have 4 floor amendments.
Senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like for us to reconsider the motion by which this was engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the vote by which the bill was engrossed and advanced to its third reading be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The motion is agreed to. The senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would move that we waive the reading of the floor amendment.
Question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would move that we agree to the floor amendments, and I'd be happy to speak to them.
Senator has the floor.
So this bill, the amendments that we have here really are mostly technical in nature. They are better defining the locations where this poster would be displayed, specifically in the clinics that it's in, as well as in what offices and clinics it would be displayed in. There's peace in the valley on this, and I move that we agree to the amendments.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the floor amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor amendments are agreed to. The senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we may now engross and advance to its third reading this bill.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third constitutional reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading. Senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. And finally, may we suspend the rules and dispense with a third constitutional reading?
Question is, shall the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The rules are suspended and the third constitutional reading is dispensed with. Senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now I move that we pass this bill. This bill takes posters that are developed by the Department of Labor federally, and we currently post in truck stops around Virginia and make sure that they're available in free clinics and other sites that would be readily accessible to a young woman who is trapped in the horrible conditions of human trafficking. And I'm glad we could reach unanimity on where we post it and how it's done, because I think this is a really hard social problem to get to, and we need to be able to reach those women directly. And this gives them a hotline where they can call and find help.
I thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 725? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 725 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. Senate Bill 725 passes.
Senate Bill 947, a bill relating to special license plates, emergency medical services agencies, fire departments.
Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Yep, we did.
Oh, is it? Okay. The Senate will be at ease. Senate will come to order. Madam Clerk.
Senate Bill 947, a bill relating to special license plates, emergency medical services agencies, fire departments.
Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass. I'd like to speak to that.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 947 sets up a process where you can verify whether someone who wants to display a special license plate signifying that they are either a member of rescue or firefighting volunteers or paid personnel. They have special license plates, and the problem that has existed in the past is that there was no means for knowing whether someone would be authorized to continue to use those if they had disassociated themselves from that activity. Sometimes they would even show up at a fire scene or rescue squad situation with a special license plate on, and sometimes would be granted special privileges. This sets up a process with the DMV where the entities that in the localities can provide information to DMV, and then they can verify that they are entitled to display these license plates. Move the bill pass.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 947? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 947 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. Senate Bill 947 passes.
Senate Bill 647, a bill relating to alcoholic beverage control, notarization of application for licenses.
Senator from Prince William County, Senator McPike.
Mr. President, I move that the bill pass. And speaking to that measure,
the senator has the floor.
This bill helps to streamline some of the ABC licensing process. In current law, it requires applicants to notarize. This bill takes that away and allows them to swear and affirm. This helps to streamline a lot of the applications are now online electronically. So this helps ABC to modernize their business process, and asks that the bill pass.
Thank the senator. The question is, do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 647? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 647 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. Senate Bill 647 passes.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 429, a bill relating to local regulation of solar facilities. And we have a floor amendment.
Senator from Franklin, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. With regard to Senate Bill 429, I now move that we reconsider the vote by which the bill was ordered to be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the vote by which the bill was ordered to be engrossed in advance to its third reading be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The motion is agreed to. The senator from Franklin, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a floor amendment, so I now move that we waive the reading of the floor amendment, sir.
Question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator from Franklin, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now move that the floor amendment be agreed to. And speaking to that motion, sir.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. This bill right here, Senate Bill 429, is a solar facilities local regulation bill. It's basically encoding that every person in the Commonwealth of Virginia has the right to put a solar array onto their property or onto their house or onto the roof, subject to setbacks and historic districts and other applicable requirements of local ordinances. This amendment now has been formulated. We've been working with the local governments to ensure that there's an enactment clause, and that enactment clause makes it clear that any ground-mounted solar facility installed as of January 1st, 2018, has a right. This has an enactment clause which starts January 1, 2019, and when that occurs, then of course those regulations which the local ordinances and the local governments may impose would be in effect, sir. So for those reasons, I renew my motion that the floor amendment be agreed to.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor amendment is agreed to. The senator from Franklin, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now move that Senate Bill 429 be engrossed in advance to its third constitutional reading.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third constitutional reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third constitutional reading. Senator from Franklin, Senator Stanley.
Thank you again, Mr. President. I now move that we suspend the rules and dispense with the third constitutional reading.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the third constitutional reading be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1, Rule 36-1.
Ayes 38, noes 1, Rule 36-1. The rules are suspended and the third constitutional reading is dispensed with. The senator from Franklin, Senator Stanley.
And thank you again, Mr. President. Finally, I now move for Senate Bill 429's passage and speaking to that motion, sir.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. Once again, members of the Senate, this is basically adding a new code section 15.2 to confirm that private property owners of real property zoned residential, agricultural, commercial, industrial, institutional, or mixed use have a right to put a solar array on their roof to serve electrical needs of their property. You would think that that would already been in the code. We assume that that is there. It has not been in the code. What this does is codify the right of the homeowner to use solar facilities on their property when they see fit. Basically, this solar bill does work with local governments to make sure that they're subject to any condo or property owners association matters or any zoning matters or historical district matters that might limit where and when this solar array can be placed. So for those reasons and the reasons previously given, Mr. President, I now renew my motion that Senate Bill 429 pass.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 429? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 429 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 1, Rule 36-1.
Ayes 38, noes 1, Rule 36-1. Senate Bill 429 passes.
Senate Bill 261, a bill relating to the standards of quality, staffing requirements, librarians, and clerical personnel.
Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can that fine bill go by for the day?
Without objection, Senate Bill 261 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 492, a bill relating to towing fees.
Senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move that we pass the bill and to explain the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this is what we call a good old-fashioned do-over. Now that Senate Finance has found my glasses, I know what the bill does. The bill before you, the towing increase, the maximum hookup for towing fees, is given the ability for the fee to go from $135 to $150. Doesn't mean it has to be $150. It can be anywhere in that range. And $150 is the cap. They can't go over that. Localities can set that rate just like they do in other districts. And it sets the medium and heavy tow rates in the code as many of the localities do. This is just a cap, and it only applies to trespass towing. It has nothing to do with public safety towing, only trespass towing when you go on to a private property and park without permission or where it's been told that you cannot park. I hope it be the pleasure of the body to pass the bill.
Thank the senator. For what purpose is the senator from North Chesapeake by Senator Spruill?
To speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, members, I'm hoping that you will support this bill. Yesterday, I voted no. Two reasons. When the senator spoke about it last year as far as to increase the fee, I thought I heard him says from 35 to 150. So my hearing's not too good, so that's one thing. And the second thing, the gentleman who wanted the bill came to my office yesterday evening and said to me, the Senator Spruill last year, you saved my company last year, and now you're killing it this year. And so I promised him that I was changing it, but the reason why I did not vote for it, because I thought the good senator says from 35 to 150. So I did not hear that, so I'm hoping that I'm keeping my promise. If I saved the man bill last year, I don't want to kill it this year. I ask y'all, please vote for it. Thank you so much.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 492? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 492 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 24, noes 16.
Ayes 24, noes 16. Senate Bill 492 passes.
Senate Bill 727, a bill relating to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, exemptions, courts of record, courts not of record, the office of the Executive Secretary.
Senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I have a couple comments with this bill, and then I'll have a motion.
Without objection, Senator, the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this bill has created a little bit of a consternation generally with the press around here, and I just, before I make my motion, I want to make sure everybody understands what I was trying to do. This bill clarified that the judiciary, the courts not of record, were exempt from FOIA. And I do believe that they are exempt from FOIA. However, some people didn't. But what the bill also did, as introduced, was it directed the Supreme Court to adopt rules for transparency and public access for all these records and things that are not subject to FOIA. It's funny, we use a term around here to say that a bill's got a fever. Well, I think this one caught on fire. But I'm not sure people really understood what I was trying to do. And so I want to make sure everybody knows what I was trying to do here and why I did it. And I'll tell you, it was the gentleman from Roanoke who actually led me down this path, because when we were in committee, the senator from Roanoke City said, they're exempt from FOIA. Why is it unclear? Give me an example as to why it's unclear. And I was kind of flippant with him, and I shouldn't have been. But he was right. And so I did a little more research, and I can tell you that since FOIA was enacted, every Chief Justice of the Supreme Court has maintained that the judiciary is not covered by FOIA. So I did a little research on my own, and I looked at the definition of public body within the Act. Public body means any legislative body, authority, board, bureau, commission, district or agency of the Commonwealth, or of any political subdivision of the Commonwealth, including cities, towns, and counties, municipal councils, governing bodies of counties, school boards and planning commissions, governing boards of public institutions of higher education, and other organizations. Corporations or agencies in the Commonwealth supported wholly or principally by public funds. It shall include the Virginia Birth-Related Neurological Injury Compensation Program and its Board of Directors established pursuant to Chapter 50, Section 38.2-5000 et sec. Of Title 38.2, and any committee, subcommittee, or other entity, however designated, of the public body created to perform delegated functions of the public body or to advise the public body. It shall not exclude any such committee, subcommittee, or entity because it has private sector or citizen members, corporations organized under the Virginia retirement system are public bodies for purposes of this chapter. Nowhere in the definition of it does it mention the judiciary. Now, some folks say because of the word organization or because of agency, it pulls it in. And that's why it's unclear. But, Mr. President, the judiciary is a co-equal branch of government under the separation of powers doctrine. They're not an agency, they're not an organization, and they are not specifically mentioned in the definition of public body under the FOIA legislation. And so what my bill tried to do was clarify that and direct the Supreme Court to adopt rules so that those records and other things could be subject to public access, which I thought was the right thing to do. The bill has created such an issue that it forced me to take a second look at it. People who are probably smarter than I am who had already said to me, we think they're exempt anyway, why do you need this bill? So, Mr. President, we're not going to have any bill that directs them to adopt rules regarding public access, because I would respectfully move we strike the bill.
Thank the senator. Question is, shall Senate Bill 727 be stricken from the calendar? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. Senate Bill 727 is stricken from the calendar.
Senate Bill 939, a bill relating to retired circuit court judges, Court of Appeals judges, and Supreme Court justices under recall, qualification by committees for courts of justice.
Senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd move Senate Bill 939 pass. And speaking to that measure,
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, in all cases with the judiciary, we qualify judges. The General Assembly qualifies judges to sit and hear cases. And so what this bill does is it also would require us to qualify those recall judges, which are judges that have retired, and the Supreme Court puts them on a recall list. We would qualify them every 3 years so they can continue to sit as a substitute judge, and that's all the bill does. I hope you support the bill.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 939? Seeing none, the senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson. For what purpose does the senator rise?
Gentleman, yield for a question.
Gentleman yield?
I will yield.
Gentleman yields. You have the floor.
I would ask the gentleman, I've appeared sometimes in front of these judges, would this be a judge, for example, that's brought out of retirement to specially hear a case, or would it be a judge that's just in regular circulation sitting on a circuit court bench as a substitute?
Mr. President, I suppose both, and I hesitate a little bit because when you say somebody brought in to hear a special case, there could be a substitute judge that is brought into another jurisdiction other than where they usually sit to hear a special case. If it has to do with a board of supervisors or something and that typical circuit court judge felt they had a conflict. But it affects all of those retired circuit court judges that sit on the recall list. So when they retire, they say, look, I'm happy to sit as a substitute. For whatever reason, the court may need a substitute. And they do continue to sit in some jurisdictions. I think in the 31st District, I believe there's at least one substitute who sits nearly full time because of the dockets there. So it encompasses all of the retired circuit court judges that the court puts on a recall list.
Senator from Fairfax City.
One further question. What does the gentleman have in mind in terms of the qualification process? I mean, would it be appearing in front of the courts committee or?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, that's exactly what it is. They appear before the courts, the respective courts committees, and they are qualified just as we do every other judge.
Thank the gentleman.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Bass, Senator Deeds, rise?
Mr. President, would the gentleman
resume the floor for the purposes of a question.
I'm happy to, Mr.
Senator,
President.
resume. Thank you. Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I'd ask the gentleman, I represent a number of localities that are served and have been served for a number of years by substitute judges at both the General District Court and Circuit Court level, and for years those substitute judges have been qualified by the Supreme Court. Is there a problem with that the gentleman's trying to fix?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, yes. There are some, how do I say this? Yes, there are there are some that have been brought to the attention of some members of the legislature where there may be difficulty with that recall judge sitting, but not to the extent that it would require any attention by the Supreme Court or the Chief Justice.
Mr. President, additional question. Would the gentleman yield for an additional question?
Senator Gill.
Mr. President, I'd say to the gentleman that I've known of circumstances where a retired judge is requested to be put on the recall list and were denied by the Chief Judge, and the gentleman's previous bill placed a great deal of faith in the judicial branch, but this bill seems to be saying you're not doing your job. Am I correct on that?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, no. The General Assembly of Virginia is tasked with qualifying all of the judges that go to the judiciary. That's our responsibility. We abdicated that responsibility upon retirement. I think it's incumbent upon us to continue that responsibility, even though they're retired, if they are going to continue to sit on the court of record.
Mr. President, would the gentleman yield for one additional question?
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator will yield. Senator has the floor.
Would the gentleman agree with me that any judge subject to recall presently has at least once in the past gone through the process and been approved and qualified by the courts committees in this General Assembly?
Senator has the floor.
I would agree, Mr. President, that they would have had to have been qualified at least once.
Thank you, Senator. Any further questions?
I thank the gentleman.
Thank the Senator. For what purpose is the Senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden, rise?
Thank you. Would the patron yield for a question?
Will patron yield?
I yield, Mr. President.
Yield. Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've been advised by some of my co-counsels up here that the age limit does not apply to these individuals who are on recall. Is that correct?
Senator has the floor.
That's correct, Mr. President. They age out at a certain point and they retire, and then they go on what's called a recall list, and they're subject to come back in and sit.
Further question?
Further question?
I yield.
Senator yield. Senator has the floor.
Could this be a perhaps mechanism for dealing with judges who perhaps have gotten to an age where it might be better if they no longer heard cases?
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I believe it is incumbent upon the General Assembly to continue to qualify these judges after they're retired, just as we qualified them before they retired.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank the Senator. First, the Senator from Bath, Senator Deeds, rise.
Mr. President, I'd like to speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
I voted against this bill in committee. I was the only vote, and I voted against this bill when it came up a year or two ago. And I would just say, in my home county, Bath, and in Highland County, the only judges we have at the General District Court and at the Circuit Court level are substitute judges. Judges that are retired, that the Chief Justice already has to qualify. And I would suggest that that's a process that's worked very well for a number of years. I'm not sure which specific problems the gentleman refers to, but I have all the confidence in the world that the Chief Justice has a good tab on those people that are on the retired list that are qualified as recall judges. And I'm not sure why we need to go in search of a solution for a problem that I'm not sure exists.
Thank the Senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on? What person is the Senator from Eastern Fairfax? Senator Surville, rise.
Speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Briefly. Mr. President, I would just say to the Senator from Bath that sometimes there's judges who are quietly encouraged to retire because maybe they are having issues, and not just with their ability to serve, but temperament and otherwise. And perhaps some of those issues aren't always shared with the Chief Justice. And this provides a mechanism by which if somebody really shouldn't be on the bench because they're not doing a good job and they're asked to retire, we can ensure that they're not on the bench at all anymore. And sometimes that's necessary, unfortunately. But that's why I'm going to vote for the bill, and I support it.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 939? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 939 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 2.
Ayes 38, noes 2. Senate Bill 939 passes.
Senate Bill 872, a bill relating to tethering of animals.
Senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move approval of the bill and speaking towards it.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this bill provides clarity for animal control officers and law enforcement officers who are charged with enforcing Virginia adequate shelter law. This bill often guides guidance to citizens who may not realize that their animals are harmful to themselves if they are not protected from the freeze. 24/7, at the end of the change of dog, this bill prohibits tethering in several weather conditions when it is not appropriate for an animal to be trapped outside tied to a stationary. Mr. President, I have made several amendments to my bill based on the feedback from various constituent groups. Number one, I have clarified that this bill does not apply to animals serving a farm or hunting purpose in response to feedback from the Virginia Agriculture Council and Hunting Dog Association. Number two, I removed the restriction on overnight changing, which was feedback I received from animal control officers. I am certain that the weather restriction, the bill prohibits the worst kind of overnight changing. Number three, I have removed the prohibit of all metal link change, also based on feedback received from animal control officers. I'm certain that the restriction we have included on heavy change will be sufficient. Number four, I have removed language that would allow tethering a dog only when an owner is present on the property. This is a major concession on my part of the bill. Mr. President, this bill does not stop any person, whether they are poor or rich, from having a dog as long as they are protected. This is about protecting dogs when it's cold. I was asked also, Mr. President, by myself, say, have you ever had a dog? A group come to me, asked me, I said, no. And they were saying, well, you were defending a bill that you never had a dog yourself. Mr. President, so you would know, with 16 brothers and sisters, we could not afford a dog. That's why I did not have a dog. But Mr. President, but for your view, if I had a choice, I would rather have a cat. If I could find one that will come to me when I call, I'd rather have a cat. Now, I hope the Senate will acknowledge that we have made numerous and sufficient change to this bill in the hope that we might still be able to achieve some protection for dogs who are left outside during extreme weather conditions. Mr. President, I hope we pass this bill.
I thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 872? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 872 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 33, noes 7.
Ayes 33, noes 7. Senate Bill 872 passes.
Senate Bill 984, a bill relating to motorboats, means of propulsion when person in water accompanying boat.
Senior Senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill pass, and I'm speaking to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill will just allow propulsion system to actually be located under the transom of the boat instead of in the outboard section where it is normally located. Certain ski boats already have this propulsion system, but it's not quite legal. It's not enforced. However, a major manufacturer is looking to build a lot of new boats in Virginia, and he wants to make sure that his product complies with the laws of the Commonwealth, and this would make it all in conformity. So I hope it will be the pleasure of the body to pass the bill.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 984? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 984 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. Senate Bill 984 passes.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on second reading.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move all the Senate bills on the second reading on the uncontested calendar, including all Senate bills on pages 7 through 9, which would include Senate bills 983 through Senate 981, be engrossed and advanced to the third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments. Any senator who desires to remove a Senate bill from the block should please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 7 through 9, Senate Bill 983 through Senate Bill 981, be engrossed and advanced to their third reading in the block after the adoption of the amendments thereto, and that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to.
Senate Bill 983, reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections with a substitute, and there are 3 floor amendments.
Senator from Rockingham, Senator Openshain.
Mr. President, move the adoption of the committee substitute.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted. Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I move that we waive the reading of the 3 floor amendments and take up the 3 floor amendments as a block.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the reading of the amendments be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the amendments is waived. Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I move that the floor amendments be adopted in a block. Speaking to the amendments.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, what this bill does, and Senator Openshain, the senator from Rockingham, and I had similar thoughts leading up to the session this year and introduced similar bills that have now been wrote together. The purpose of these bills is to address the issues that were encountered in the elections last November, where there were a number of voters across the Commonwealth who were given ballots that were not for the districts in which they were supposed to be voting. This was most prominent, although not necessarily limited to those situations where there were split precincts. Some people in a precinct were voting in one district, some people in the precinct were voting in another district. What this bill does is it basically says that it was the responsibility of the local governing bodies to design their precincts to fit with the congressional, state senate, House of Delegates, and county voting precinct, county and city voting precincts there. So we have provisions that are addressed in this bill dealing with county and city precincts, which are relevant because the voting that takes place is generally held in November for those offices. However, we also have in this particular bill here a provision that covers town precincts as well. That is something after we'd passed the bill and the bill had passed in committee, took a look at that and determined that is not necessary and probably has at least the potential for being counterproductive. What I want to do is give you a couple of reasons why it's not necessarily appropriate for town precincts. First is that very few towns in Virginia actually have precincts. Nearly the vast majority of towns across the Commonwealth vote as one single precinct there. And in fact, there are only 8 towns in the entire Commonwealth that have precincts, or they actually refer to them as wards generally, and that is generally done in a situation to comply with Voting Rights Act. So that happens in very few situations that the town even has precincts. Secondly, the vast majority of towns across the Commonwealth vote in May. They don't vote in their town elections in November. The individuals who live in the town obviously vote every November. We all get to vote every November, but they do so at their county precinct, not at their town precinct. And in 7 of the 8 situations, that applies. Third, when a town has its town elections held in November, what they do is they have the individuals go not to a town precinct, but go to the county precinct where they are voting in that November. And they are given, if they live in the town, they are given a town ballot and can vote for council or other types of positions that may be up there at that place, but they do not go to a town precinct. So they are never voting in a town precinct boundary, in a town precinct, in a situation where they are voting in a November election, which are the types of things that would be relevant, in the situations that we encountered last November. I've spoken with the director of the Virginia Municipal League, and she is supportive of removing this from the bill, which is what these 3 amendments would do. And I would point out that it is certainly one of the concerns that have been raised is that it is possible in a situation like this to have someone drawing districts that is not necessarily aware that they've actually split a town and end up with a situation that makes it very complicated for the town, one of these 8, for example, that does have precincts, to be able to handle it. For example, in 2015, when the federal courts ruled that the congressional districts were not constitutional in Virginia, those had to be redrawn. We were not able to reach the agreement as to how to do that as the General Assembly, and so they were drawn by the federal courts. The federal courts are not necessarily sensitive to town boundaries and those types of things. And if, for example, you had a town that had 3 wards that each had roughly 1,000 voters, they could draw it so one ward had only 300 people in one congressional district and the other 700 in another congressional district. So it does have potential for creating some problems in these situations. And it is important to make sure that the districts do not cause, the district lines do not cause people to vote, two different people in the same precinct to vote in the separate elections when they go to the same place to vote. But that doesn't happen because the town precincts are not where they do their voting in November. So I think it would be the pleasure of the body to adopt this change and eliminate the reference to town precincts.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the floor amendments be adopted? Someone else wish to be heard? Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Yeah, if I may. Mr. President, speaking of the floor amendments.
Senator has the floor.
And I appreciate what my friend from Fairfax is trying to do. I think we are of like mind with respect to the greater bill, but I would urge the body to oppose the floor amendment, and a couple of reasons. First of all, I mean, this is not new language, and frankly, I think just about everybody in this room has voted for this language with towns in it in the past. Second of all, I would point out that the problem and the challenge articulated by the gentleman from Fairfax is that in future redistrictings we may split towns, and quite frankly that's something that another bill addresses, and I would like to think that we believe in compactness and would try to avoid that, particularly with respect to towns. I would point out that in the last redistricting, the final, I think that Senator Howell's bill, SB 4, as introduced, had 16 towns that were divided, that were split. And I have talked to counsel about this and found that I can't articulate a compelling reason why towns should be left in, but likewise there isn't a compelling reason to take towns out. And the purpose of this bill is to prevent issues and gamesmanship in the future. It is to set down rules now with respect to the division, splitting of precincts, so that in the next 10 years after we redistrict, we know what we're dealing with. And while today we can't predict that there is going to be a problem that's going to be solved by this, let me tell you, if we wait until after redistricting, there are going to be problems that we would say could have been solved by this. So, Mr. President, I would ask the members of the body to resist this amendment.
I thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on this motion? Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, just to respond briefly to the comments from my friend from Rockingham, and certainly we do agree completely on terms of what we're trying to accomplish here. It's just this one minor issue that is between us. In reality, the situation is that when you do have districts drawn for counties, those are where people vote in November. So having a provision that applies to precincts that are for towns cannot, in effect, solve anything. It can only create problems by forcing towns to have to redraw things for their own elections to vote in May, when in reality that's never going to have an impact upon congressional, state Senate, House of Delegate, or county positions there. And I would point that it's not simply us who are doing these drawings in some situations, which is why I referenced the 2015 federal case that resulted in the redrawing of congressional district boundaries. Congressional district boundaries clearly do have to have, almost certainly have to have some split precincts, because they have to get down to every single district, all 11 districts in Virginia, having precisely the same number of people. And if you have that being drawn by a court that is not familiar with things in Virginia, you clearly run the risk that there will be an implication here that was unintended. So I'd hope it to be the pleasure of the body to adopt this amendment.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the floor amendments be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The chair is uncertain. We'll have a recorded vote. All in favor of agreeing to the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 19, noes 21.
Ayes 19, noes 21. The motion fails.
Senate Bill 587, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice. Senate Bill 609, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with amendments.
Senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Surville.
Move the committee amendments.
Question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are agreed to.
Senate Bill 888, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute.
Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Mr. President, I move the committee substitute be agreed to.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 912, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice. Senate Bill 981, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
Question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed in advance to their third reading? That is all bills referred to. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed in advance to their third reading.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 159, a bill relating to the Commonwealth's lien for payment of medical services limitations, reported from the Committee on Finance with amendment.
Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move the bill go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 159 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 308, a bill relating to driving under the influence highways, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute.
Senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the substitute be adopted.
Question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted. Senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be engrossed advance to its third reading.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 416, a bill relating to venue in criminal cases, concurrent jurisdiction, obsolete provisions. Reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 545, a bill relating to court reporters, prohibited actions, civil penalties. Reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute, and we have 8 floor amendments.
Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the substitute.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is adopted. Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the floor amendment be waived, at least my floor amendments be waived.
Question is, shall the reading of the floor amendments be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendments is waived. Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. Explaining the floor amendment and a little bit of this bill, and I know the senator from Rockingham will also speak to the bill. We heard this bill in courts, and Mr. President, what the floor amendment does is simply take out a section of this bill that takes out the ability for insurance companies. What it does is allow insurance companies actually to be able to participate in private contractual agreements with the services of court reporting and other issues that some of these folks do that provide the legal services in court proceedings. By striking the language that's in there currently that allows these folks to be not participate in that, what my bill does is allow them to do that. And so, Mr. President, I would that's the amendment. It actually restores that back to allow insurance companies the opportunity to participate in private contractual agreements.
Thank the senator. The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, speaking to the floor amendments, and I assume we're taking up 1 through 7 in a block.
That's correct, Senator.
All right. And Mr. President, members of the Senate, let me explain what is happening here. This bill was heard in the Courts of Justice Committee and passed out, I think, on a 14-1 vote. And this objection was heard and discussed at considerable length. The issue that this set of amendments seeks to address is the subject of really the whole heart of the bill. When you go to court or you turn on court TV and you look at the courtroom, you see up in the front of the courtroom the person with the steno machine taking down the testimony that is being given. You may think that that person is actually employed by the court. And in a lot of ways, we count on that person to be an officer of the court. But typically, in a civil case, they're not paid by the court. They're paid by the parties to the case. The lawyers retain or pay a court reporter to come in and faithfully and impartially take down the testimony. It's lawyers who retain them. It's the lawyers who pay them. But they are officers of the court. They are notary publics. They are supposed to be taking down this testimony and treating the parties equally. And we've got an awful lot of great court reporters across Virginia who do a super job. And the Virginia Court Reporters Association strongly supports this bill as it's written. Those are the front-line court reporters all over Virginia, the ones that serve every member of this body who winds up in court. But what's happened is that there's been a move by institutional litigators, institutions that litigate all the time. And they've decided, you know, we spend a lot of money on court reporters, and we're tired of spending that money on court reporters. We'd rather the other side pay for these court reporters. And so what they do is they've gone out and actually it's been some entrepreneurs from Texas and Chicago and New York who've put together these companies that have marketed these institutional litigators and have said, I tell you what, we'll enter a contract with you, and as long as you contract with us to exclusively be your court reporter for all of your cases, we're going to charge you less than the other side. We're going to shift the costs to the other side, to the guy, the person, the man or the woman who may never have been in court before, who may never go to court ever again. They wind up having to pay for the institutional litigators' expenses for litigating. And it totally upsets the apple cart and the notion that the court reporters are officers of the court, when these court reporters are actually hired by the insurance companies and have long-term contracts with the insurance companies. And what they've done is created this system whereby, you know, they are really providing ancillary services to these companies as well. They process these depositions and this testimony. They provide summaries of the helpful stuff to the insurance company. They provide these litigation packages, and typically it's the mom or the pop or the individual who's on the other side who's paying for all of that, and it's not fair. This restores the balance, the equilibrium, the traditional notion that that person running that steno machine is not a wholly owned subsidiary of ABC Insurance Company or ABC Corporation, but they're faithfully there in the front of the courtroom taking down the testimony without obligation to either side and under an obligation to treat both sides fairly. That's all that this is about, is to restore that equilibrium. And I will tell you that whether you talk to plaintiffs' lawyers will tell you, you know, it's a crazy system, and I'm sick and tired of being stuck with the insurance company's bills. My clients are sick and tired of it. You talk to defense lawyers, and they will tell you, candidly, you know, this system stinks. I hate having these insurance companies tell me that I have to hire or have to use this court reporting firm that they have contracted with. I don't think they're treating the other side fairly, but they're stuck with it. So I've talked to plaintiffs' lawyers, I've talked to defense lawyers, I've talked to court reporters all over Virginia, and uniformly they say that, and talk to members of the judiciary, it needs to, we need to have that equilibrium restored to the process, and this system is at jeopardy of being broken by a bunch of out-of-state large companies that have been very entrepreneurial and have tilted the table in our courtrooms across Virginia. So this bill, Mr. President, or this amendment takes the guts out of this.
Thank the Senator. For what purpose is the Senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Surville, rise?
Speaking to the amendment.
The Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I agree with the Senator from Rockingham and ask the body to oppose these amendments. One point I think it's important to remember. Under the Code of Professional Responsibility for Attorneys, we are required, lawyers are required to pass these costs through to their clients. They're not costs to the attorneys. And so what we're talking about here is Virginia litigants, Virginia people, Virginia businesses who are paying for this, whereas these insurance companies that leverage all this power get a cut rate for themselves, and they're having people pay for this. So it's not, the lawyers don't pay these bills, the clients do. And that's required by the Virginia Code of Professional Responsibility, the Code of Ethics for us. And so it's important for your constituents, for the people you represent, the businesses you represent, not just the attorneys, that we level the playing field here.
Thank you, Senator. For what purpose is the Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves, rise?
Mr. President, I wish to speak to the amendment briefly if I can.
Senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has nothing to do with the quality side of this. And if you'll read below what the amendment does, which is take out lines 35 through 39, if you look at lines 40 through 43, and I'd like to read those, give an economic or other advantage to a party or party's attorney, representative, agent, insurer, or employee without offering the advantage to all parties, or fail to offer comparable services, which is the argument that's been on the floor, prices or financial terms to all parties, except that different credit terms may be offered based on payment experience and credit worthiness. So the section of the amendments that I am proposing would allow insurance companies still to be able to do this. So the argument was about fairness. They're leaving that in. We're not striking that language. That language still is in the bill. We're striking the language that excludes insurance companies from working to provide private contractual agreements in the best interest of their clients. But they're willing to get to the table to say, hey, we'll offer those same services to the advantage to all parties. That stays in the bill, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does Senator from King George, Senator Stewart, rise?
Mr. President, speaking to the amendment.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, the gentleman from Spotsylvania just said that's the problem. The problem is when you represent two people, which a court reporter does, it's supposed to fairly take down and transcribe what occurs in there for both sides, but yet you contract with one side. You're obligated to that one side, and that creates an inherent conflict of interest. And that's the position we're putting these people in. Do you think for 1 minute that they're not going to feel obligated to that insurance company who's trying to provide them with all of these different court sessions to record? We're putting them in an untenable position, and I hope that we'll reject these amendments.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill, rise?
Mr. Chairman, speaking to the bill.
The amendments, the senator has the floor.
Mr. Chairman, by not being a lawyer, I'm listening very carefully. Can any lawyer tell me how does this bill benefit a non-lawyer to benefit me, not yourself? How should I vote to benefit me as a non-lawyer? That's all I ask.
Mr. President.
Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, speaking to the bill and perhaps accepting the invitation of the senator from Chesapeake.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, what I would say is that as a non-institutional litigant, somebody who may find themselves hopefully never in court in your life, but maybe in court once, what this will do is it will make sure that you are not having to pay for services that are being provided to your opponent, that those costs are not being shifted to you, that you're not being deprived of your access to civil justice. And for every additional penny that you have to pay to get justice, you're being deprived justice. So that's what this is about.
Thank the senators. For what purpose does the senator from Lynchburg, Senator Peake, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak to the amendment.
Senator has the floor.
And I appreciate Senator from Rockingham's bill and support the bill except for lines 35 through 40, which this amendment strikes. If this amendment is granted, all of these protections that we have talked about will be provided to parties on both sides. And in fact, to answer the senator from Chesapeake's question, both parties, if you are not an insurance company or a lawyer and you happen to be involved in a lawsuit and a court reporter has negotiated a contract with some company, probably an insurance company, for a lower fee, this bill would mean that both sides, plaintiff and defendant, no matter who you are, would benefit from that lower fee. And speaking to the amendment, I have serious concerns that paragraph 1, lines 35 through 40 are unconstitutional in that they prohibit a court reporter or a court reporter firm from engaging in a contract with any other entity. And I have serious concerns about that. But they can enter into a contract with anybody they want to, and if they negotiate a lower rate, based on the rest of the bill, everybody will benefit from that lower rate. So I support the amendment, and then I would support the bill.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on floor amendments 1 through 7? Seeing none, the question is, shall floor amendments 1 through 7 be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The chair is uncertain. We'll have a recorded vote. All in favor of agreeing to the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
26.
Ayes 14, noes 26. Floor amendments 1 through 7 are rejected. Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move to waive the reading of the 8th floor amendment.
Question is, shall the reading of the 8th floor amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move that the floor amendment be adopted. And speaking of this,
Senator has the floor.
This, I hope, will not be as controversial as the first 7, but this simply makes it clear that in the final provision of the bill that if a court finds that a violation of the statute has taken place, that the state bar only has to publish information about that, that they only have to publish information about that in the event that a violation has been found, not simply every time that there's been a complaint that's been made. So in order to address some due process concerns, I offer this floor amendment.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on this floor amendment? Seeing none, the question is, shall floor amendment number 8 be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Floor amendment number 8 is adopted. Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its 3rd constitutional reading.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its 3rd constitutional reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its 3rd constitutional reading.
Senate Bill 777, a bill relating to post-conviction relief, previously admitted scientific evidence, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute.
Senator from Franklin, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now ask that Senate Bill 777 go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Bill 777 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 813, a bill relating to sharing of forfeited assets, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
Senator from Lynchburg, Senator Pete.
Yes, Mr. President, I move that the bill be advanced and engrossed to its 3rd reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its 3rd constitutional reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its 3rd constitutional reading.
Senate Bill 982, a bill relating to guidelines for the determination of a child support obligation, child support orders, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute.
The senior senator from Richmond City, Senator Sturdivant.
Mr. President, I move the committee substitute be agreed to.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to. The senior senator from Richmond City, Senator Sturdivant.
I move that the bill be engrossed and advanced to its 3rd reading, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its 3rd reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its 3rd reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on 1st reading.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move all Senate bills on the 1st reading on both the uncontested and regular calendar, including all bills on pages 12 through 28, including Senate Bill 872 through Senate Bill 970, that the rules of the Senate be suspended and the 1st constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
I thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended in the 1st reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 12 through 28, Senate Bill 72 through Senate Bill 970, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now move that all the bills which find themselves in the second reading be passed by for the day.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading be passed by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Inquire of the clerk, does that complete today's calendar? I'm sorry, I'm
Yes, sir.
the majority
Thus
leader's in
endeth the
doubt.
reading of the calendar for today.
Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Senior Senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have been through 13 contested elections in Loudoun County, and I have made it a very strict policy that following the election, I never make an adverse comment about my opponent, and I don't intend to do so today. But I have watched over the past year or so as my election results have been at a national level because the wife of one-time FBI acting director Andrew McCabe, his involvement has become very prominent. And I don't rise to criticize him or his wife. However, today it shows up in papers and blogs all over the place that two of Andrew McCabe's close associates, FBI agent Peter Strzok, who was the Deputy Assistant Director for Counterespionage, and his lover, FBI attorney Lisa Page, who remarkably exchanged 50,000 texts over the course of the campaign and in the aftermath. I don't know how anyone does any work and does 50,000 texts. But in the course of that, when my opponent lost the election, very graciously on both sides, they were so angered at that FBI agent Peter Strzok texted his paramour, and he said, well, the reason is that those people in Loudoun County are a bunch of hillbillies. So, Mr. President, I rise in defense of the alleged hillbillies of Loudoun County. Ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you that of 3,000 counties in the United States, Loudoun County has the highest income. Two-thirds of our residents have bachelor's, master's, or higher degrees. And 76% of the entire world's internet traffic flows through Loudoun County. So it's a pretty sophisticated place. It is not a land of hillbillies. And frankly, I would never demean hillbillies because I like hillbillies. I like hillbillies. But I will tell you that I was very irritated at Peter Strzok and his comments about the voters of my county. I disagree strenuously. And I would point out to him that I will bet you that almost every child in Loudoun County schools is able, unlike Mr. Strzok, to spell the word hillbilly. It's very tough. I know it's a very complex and very obscure word, hillbilly. So, ladies and gentlemen, I rise in defense of the voters of Loudoun County. I do not appreciate Peter Strzok's comments, and frankly, it is a revelation to see some of the things that this man, who was at one time the top FBI agent working for Special Investigator Robert Mueller, to try to find things that he could bring out against President Trump. I am amazed at his incredible bias, his incredible bigotry, and the fact that he cannot spell the word hillbilly. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from James City County, Senator Norment, rise?
Mr. President, I rise for two announcements. I would say to my good friend, the senator from Loudoun, that I learned a long time ago, you're a lot happier if you don't read the news with the fake news and you don't read blogs. You'll be a lot happier. The second observation that I would make to the Senate is, as you can see, that we're starting to build up a little watershed of legislation that is working its way through. And I think perhaps starting on Friday, we may try to accelerate the passage of some of the legislation by taking bills that are on the second reading on the uncontested calendar and see if mercifully we can take them all the way through and pass them through the third reading. Generally, we have been doing that subject to the one exception rule. So I just try to share with you some advance notice about that, and perhaps as you are sipping your sarsaparillas on Thursday night, that you can think ahead and see if we cannot move some of this legislation along, just so no one's in doubt, Mr. President.
I thank the senator.
Mr. President.
Senior Senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Wagner.
Before the clerk makes her announcements, I would just want to make an announcement of my own. Because we're getting a late start here this afternoon, and Commerce and Labor has been moved today, Wednesday, that the subcommittee, Finance Subcommittee on Transportation will not meet till 4:30.
Thank the senator. What purpose does the senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker, rise?
Mr. President, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I'm not quite sure what to make of all the comments from the senior senator from Loudoun and what he may think of me, but I'm here to say, as someone who grew up in East Tennessee, I'm a proud native hillbilly.
I thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for an announcement.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, as you probably know, a couple weeks ago we asked for an analysis from the State Corporation Commission of the various electricity bills that we'll be voting on the next few days. And Senator Suderline and I asked for an updated analysis, which I got back today. If you want a copy, please come see me. Thank you.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howell, rise? No problem. For what purpose does the senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain, rise?
Mr. President, we're going to have a meeting of the Courts Committee at my desk immediately upon the adjournment.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an announcement.
There's the floor.
The Rural Caucus, on behalf of the caucus chair, Senator Ruff, and myself, will not be meeting this evening at 5 o'clock. We are going to be having our annual dinner this evening down at the Omni, and I would say to you, Governor Northam will be speaking, but if you want to attend, you can't. We're already sold out, so get your tickets early next year. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the senator. Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Seeing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Wednesday, February 7th, the Committee for Courts of Justice will meet immediately upon adjournment at the chairman's desk. The Committee on Transportation will meet 15 minutes after adjournment in the Capitol, Senate Room 3. The Committee on Commerce and Labor will meet 20 minutes after adjournment in Pocahontas, Senate Room A. The Finance Subcommittee on Transportation will meet at 4:30 p.m., 5th floor Subcommittee Room number 1 in Pocahontas. Senators Wagner, Saslaw, Newman, Carrico, Barker, and Donovan. Tomorrow, Thursday, February 8th, the Committee on Education and Health will meet at 8 a.m., Senate Room A in the Pocahontas building. The Finance Subcommittee on Capital Outlay and General Government will meet at 8 a.m., 5th floor Subcommittee Room Number 1 in Pocahontas, Senators Norman, Saslaw, Hanger, Lucas, Ruff, Wagner, McDougal, Vogel, Obenshain, and Dance. The Hampton Roads Caucus will meet at 8 a.m., 5th floor, Subcommittee Room number 3. And the Republican Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 2. The Democratic Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 1. Roses are red, violets are blue. There are 7 shopping days left for you.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. The Senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the Senate adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 noon tomorrow.